250 years ago tomorrow, a group of men sat in a room in Philadelphia and did something almost unthinkable. They put their names on a piece of paper, and in doing so, they signed their own death warrant. Not metaphorically, literally. Because had the revolution failed, every signature on that document was a name on a list for the hangman. And they knew that. They signed anyway. We say the founding fathers, so often the phrase has gone smooth, like a coin rubbed featureless from too much use. We forget that these were flesh and blood men with families, debts, friends, with everything to lose, choosing to gamble it all away on an idea. It wasn't a guarantee, it was just an idea. That people could govern themselves. That a king was not owed obedience simply because he wore a crown. Think about what that actually took. It took a man like George Washington, who could have stayed home and tended his fields at Mount Vernon in comfort. Instead, he crossed an icy river on Christmas night, half his army without proper shoes, leaving bloody footprints in the snow, as we've all heard. It took farmers and blacksmiths and shopkeepers, men with no military training at all, picking up muskets and walking away from their families and lives, not knowing if they'd ever see the next harvest, let alone the next decade. It took women holding farms and businesses together while the men was gone, some hiding soldiers, some carrying messages at the risk of their own lives, most never named in a single history book. None of them knew how the story would end, and that's the part we forget. Looking back from here, 250 years later, knowing how it all turned out, they did not have that comfort. They bet everything on a country that didn't even exist yet, on the idea, on the hope of it, and they paid for that bet in blood, in cold years away from everybody they loved. That to me is courage. Not the movie version, not clean, certain, and not lit up perfectly for the camera. The real kind, the kind that acts without knowing the ending. Tomorrow, as we celebrate 250 years since a room full of imperfect men chose to risk everything for an idea bigger than themselves, we owe them more than fireworks and a day off. We owe them the honesty of remembering what it actually cost, and the responsibility of asking whether we'd have had that same courage if we were in that room, not knowing how the story ends. They didn't know, but they signed anyway. That is the country that we were given. And what we do with it and continue to do with it, well, that part's still being written.